You know, the video I'm going to make today is a long time coming. It's taken a long time, but it's finally time to end the Evangelical Rapist. What is up, you heathens and demons, you sinners and saints, you blasphemous, beautiful bastards? Welcome back to The Raging Atheist. I'm your boy Nakasuchi, and today I'm finally going to end my trilogy on the Evangelical Rapist. So if you don't remember the video, or you're new to the channel, you've never seen the video, my most watched video ever was the Evangelical Rapist. My second most watched video ever was the Evangelical Rapist Part 2. And it's kind of sad because this video I think is the most important of the three, and it has no chance to be seen nowhere near as much as the first two. Because while in the first two I focused on the fathers especially, and then in the second video I put a little blame on the mother. I put a lot of responsibility on the mother in the second video. This video, I'm going to focus on the survivors. And I'm going to put the mother in there, even though she's not going to be represented in this video, and change my stance a little bit. Because although I do think that she does bear a lot of responsibility, she was an adult in that situation and she should have protected her children. She was also a victim of this man. And I lost sight of that in my second video. And I'm not going to lose sight of that again. So if you're not familiar with it, let's get right into it.
They were known as the American Von Trapp family.
Jessica.
Jeremiah.
Jenny. Jeanette.
Jackson. Jedi.
Jasmine. Juliet. Jamie. Joy. Jigger. Cheetah.
We're the Willis clan.
Hi.
12 children, all gifted musicians, dancing, singing, and performing together. First winning hearts during an appearance on America's Got Talent in 2014. Led by their dad, Toby, who was the band's sound engineer, and their mom, Brenda, their homeschool teacher.
Alright, so meet the Willis clan, and they were Quiverful. They were part of the Quiverful movement. A big part of the Quiverful movement. And they did what Quiverful families often do. They raised their children to be pop stars, in this case country stars, that can influence pop culture and influence it in a way to promote this very fundamental evangelical form and brand of Christianity. And sexual abuse is rampant within this community, going all the way back to its founder, Bill Gothard, who is still plagued by several sexual abuse allegations. And another aspect of the Quiverful life is physical abuse, and usually from the time of infancy, once you're a little baby, and it becomes very normal to you. And, you know, I'm going to go ahead and kind of spoil this video anymore. I'm going to prop up these survivors, and I'm going to applaud them for their strength and their bravery. Now, they're still faithful, they're still Christians, and I would probably take issue with their faith. But this isn't about their faith, it's about their strength and their ability to turn the worst situation into at least something positive.
Their lives were seemingly perfect, but then a dark secret emerged. In September 2016, Toby Willis was arrested and charged with 4 counts of child rape. His victims, some of his own daughters.
Now, to me, this is one of the worst crimes that you can commit. I couldn't really think of another crime that would be worse than this outside of doing the same and then murdering your child. But a very atrocious crime that is far too common and doesn't get talked about enough. Because, you know, even if it's not a parent, it's usually a trusted family member or a trusted friend of the family. It's usually a person of trust and authority over the child. And there's so many layers to this one. So many children involved because it's a Quiverful family. There are a lot of kids, as you saw. And if you guys don't know what the Quiverful movement is, well then I highly suggest you go back in my video log and find my old videos on it.
Joining me now is the current Willis Clan band. Jennifer Willis McDowell, Jeanette Willis Pyatt,
Jasmine Willis, Jeremiah Willis, Jedediah Willis, and Jackson Willis. Good morning to you all. What an emotional moment.
All right, so the Willis Clan is the musical band, and it used to have a lot of the really younger children in it as well. It doesn't any longer. And that's something that the Quiverful movement really promotes, is raising an army for Christ, infiltrating pop culture, infiltrating politics on the local, state, and national levels. There's a detailed plan when it comes to the Quiverful movement, and a lot of these evangelical movements that spend a lot of time and power and money lobbying leaders of our nation. Now, it's been a really long time since I made the Evangelical Rapist Part 2 or even looked at it, but I think I do recall that I kind of made a prediction that they would never really be able to rebound from this. I don't think most people would have the fortitude to be able to rebound from something like this and to save a career that's really hard for anybody to achieve in the first place. And I'm going to go ahead and admit that it looks like I'm wrong, that they have rebounded, they have saved their career, they have turned these really rotten lemons into lemonade, and they have made a better situation, and they are trying to use this situation in their lives to actually help people, and I'm, again, going to applaud them for that.
Let's just start with earlier in your lives, and you guys are kids and you're growing up, and I know you three young women have been open about the fact that you were victims of your father. Mm-hmm. You didn't know. The three of you didn't talk about it. Is that the case?
Well, yeah, when we were younger, we definitely did not talk about it to each other, especially when you're a child. You don't have the vocabulary to talk about it.
You don't have the vocabulary to talk about it, or really the knowledge, the will, the fortitude to be able to resist the indoctrination that comes along with it. Abuse is fundamentally at the core of the Quiverful movement, and they get it from the Bible. A lot of Quiverful families use the rod. I've spoken of blanket therapy, physical abuse from the time of infancy, from when they're a little baby. Physical violence becomes normal to them. Normal. And there's really no red flags that would be raised there.
And also, you're still learning like what's appropriate and what's not. So you aren't always clear when something happens to you if it's wrong or not.
Mm-hmm. Right. And it's a person of trust. So you assume there's an assumption that this person's not going to hurt me.
Right. Exactly.
What they do is okay. Would you, outside of what was going on with the abuse in him, would you describe it as a happy childhood?
You know, I think essentially they say maybe, possibly, in their early childhood, it was happy. And I think the boys are going to talk about it, and I think I'll show it as well, that you normalize it in your mind. It becomes very normal to you. But the best thing I took from this, and even though they're still, people of faith, they're still Christians, to each their own, I don't think that they're within that Quiverful movement anymore. Because it's even worse than Megyn Kelly is putting there. It's more than just a matter of trust. It's a matter of faith. The male patriarchy, especially within the Quiverful movement, is an umbrella. You have God, you have Jesus, and then you have Dad. Dad is the representation of Jesus in the home. The wife and the children are underneath that. So to question the father within a Quiverful movement family would be to question Jesus himself.
So then you become famous, right? I mean, you're on America's Got Talent, you get your own reality show. And was there a conscious memory at that time? Was there a conscious thought of, we have a secret? I mean, this could come out.
For me, it wasn't as conscious of a secret. It was more of just the reality of, okay, we talk about this, and I'm not going to talk about this. So it wasn't as much of I'm holding a secret, because it was normalized in my mind and in my life. Yeah.
And there they speak of it. They speak a little bit of it. Unfortunately, Megyn Kelly doesn't go too far into the details of the Christianity that they were practicing, because Megyn Kelly herself is a Christian and probably doesn't want to face the dark truth about her own religion. The Quiverful movement and very evangelical movements within this country promote child abuse. And as I told you, the father just isn't a father, but the representation of Jesus. The father can't really do any wrong within these family dynamics. And that is a huge issue.
I know that there was physical abuse of the young men in your family, including the three of you. And so how do you remember growing up thinking about your dad? I mean, do you remember thinking about him as a loving person or as someone who would hurt you?
Honestly, just because something is normal doesn't mean it's right. And our childhood felt normal to us. And only since we've been able to step back and have time away from our father that we've been able to realize that we did not have a normal childhood and it was not right.
And I'm really glad for them that they were able to escape that umbrella within the Quiverful movement. And I really hope that they have. And from that, I'm assuming that they at least know that that method of child rearing isn't right. And this is another thing that the Quiverful movement does. They isolate their children. Some extreme communities and sects of this movement won't allow their children any association with any other children, even the children within the Quiverful movement. No association, only the family. So you never even have a chance to compare your life to another. You never had the chance to see normalcy. So you can only assume that this nightmare is normal.
Mm-hmm. The abuse first emerged within the family. How? How did you guys first start talking to each other and putting together?
Well, in the later years, like right before our dad was arrested, we would talk about, everyone knew there was something going on. Obviously, the like physical abuse and things like that was apparent. Like everyone in the family knew about that. But the sexual abuse was something that was very secret. And each of us that experienced it on our own in secret. So there was never anyone else in the room and something. So it was kind of this unsaid thing that we knew there was something else going on, but we didn't like specifically talk about it.
And try to put yourself in the nightmare that each of these children lived, but especially those young women. Being raped by their father, and all indications is it started really early in their lives. So most of their entire lives is that. Not knowing if it's happening to your sisters, and there are plenty of them. Seeing younger sisters coming to that age when it might have started for them. Imagine that nightmare that they lived in. And imagine what type of indoctrination it takes to normalize that.
And even, if I could jump in really quick, even on the physical abuse, I don't think we ever used those words. We didn't know to attach the actual actions with the correct terminology. And I think that was a big thing that held us back. And
often, kids.
When people prey upon, when people abuse the weakest and most innocent of us, that should be something that we're all looking into. That should be the most talked about issue. And sadly, it just isn't. Sexual abuse in this country, sexual abuse in this world is rampant, and it goes across all demographics. It's not just a religious thing, it's an everybody thing. And that's something that we have to start talking about. That's something that we have to start fighting against. Most people, as I said earlier, are abused by a family member or a close friend of the family in a position of trust. We have to start talking about this.
So what was the moment? Because I know your older sister, who she wrote a very compelling online account of what had happened to her and her own journey, and described dealing with what she referred to as a monster in the shadows, meaning your dad, saying our family system was disturbingly sick. So how did you first learn about that? What got the conversation going?
Honestly, the first time we ever talked about it openly was after TBI, the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, came to one of our shows and started questioning us.
Now, can you picture that? Go back and listen to that if you missed that, because that's very important. You know, these children are well into their teenage years when this is happening. This abuse had been going on, a decade at least? And not until investigators came and started asking questions did those girls put 2 and 2 together. The umbrella of this male patriarchy, placing the father as the ultimate supreme being within that household. It should be illegal. This is something that not just atheists, but every humanist, every progressive, anybody that gives a goddamn about the progress of this world should be up in arms about and demanding action.
And we, after that show, when they started questioning us and stuff, then we started looking at each other and saying, what is actually going on here? And that night was the most just intense night of my life, because I started to realize what had happened to all of my siblings as well, and really started to understand what had actually happened to me.
You know, and to find out you're alone and to be in that experience, like, it's unfathomable for me to be able to put myself there. To know that not only you suffered that abuse for so long in silence, but people that you loved the most were also suffering that same abuse. Seeing the outright physical abuse of your male siblings and going about your day as if it's normal. See, the Willis clan, they say a lot of the same words that many survivors of this horrendous cult say. And again, I applaud their strength. I don't know if I would have the strength to come out of that. So I applaud them.
What was that like, talking to your sisters for the first time and realizing it wasn't just me? I would imagine there'd be horror, and there might be a level of relief too.
Definitely knowing that you're not alone, and this isn't something unique, unfortunately, and that there are people that can walk with you through that hard time. But then also, just knowing what happened to other members of the family was sickening in that way.
You know, the nightmares that we go through, the nightmares that we are able to survive and come out the other end stronger, with a voice, with a new passion for a new message. These are the greatest moments of the human experience, in my opinion. And that should transcend whatever differences one might have at all. I will always stand with them in their fight against sexual abuse. And if any of you out there have went through sexual abuse, know that I'm an ally, and know that I'll listen. And this is something that I'm going to be a lot more vocal about. YouTube doesn't like it when I do it. People usually don't really watch the videos I make on this issue. But people need to be talking about this issue. And I'm going to talk about it a lot more. So I'm going to close here with another clip, just kind of paying tribute to these young warriors, to pay homage to their strength, to honor them as the survivors that they are. I honor you, Willis clan.
Just think it's discipline, and this is how, we've misbehaved, and this is the consequence for misbehavior.
Back in 2016, our father was arrested for sexual abuse.
and people were even more shocked when they found out that it was us girls. When all this information finally came to the surface, it changed our lives in an instant. In that moment, it really felt like our life had just shattered.
We stepped away from all of our social platforms and took some time to heal and to process what we had just gone through.
We just said, what are we gonna do? How are we gonna go on from here? How are we gonna put our life back together?
Well, I'm gonna have to say, I think you did a pretty fine job of it. And, you know, anything that I've gotten wrong in the past on this issue, in those first 2 videos, I humbly apologize for. I'm not perfect, but I do try to be fair. Once again, I want to tone back my rhetoric against the mother, because even though I think she does bear a lot of the responsibility, I think that torture is with her, and I also know that she was a victim of this man as well, a victim of this patriarchy, this umbrella that too many people think comes from the Bible. My patrons, you guys are the shit. That's why you got to see this video before anybody else. But thank you so much for sticking with me. I'm really hoping to make Patreon worth your time. I'm going to be promoting Patreon more because I'm going to be doing just only Patreon shit. So if you want the full Raging Atheist experience, you might want to consider becoming a patron as well. And like every video I've ever done, if you like it, hit the thumbs up, subscribe, share me on your social media. The only way this channel is going to grow because YouTube hates us. Hit that bell so you're notified, maybe, if I do a live stream or put out a new video, all of that jazz. And as always, I'll see you soon.